And an incredible honor it is to have Colonel Gray with us. Because you've seen him on the Daily Show this week, you've seen him on TV. This is our great, great friend, a champion for Florida, a champion for the United States. This is Congressman Emanuel Cleaver.
It's a privilege to serve this area, and it's definitely a privilege for me to work with my friend, the former mayor of the city, who is doing an incredible job in Congress, Louis Franklin. But he's speaking in church tomorrow, and that's one of the things Emanuel Cleaver is known for, and that is his spiritual force. He sends to us, Louis and Ted and Debbie and Patrick and Rooney and all the rest of us. Every week he sends us a message that has a context that's important. My dear brother and friend, please know that all of the honorees here are people that are responsible for Lois and myself and our colleagues being in office. And my good friend, Terry Rizzo, in my judgment, has done an incredible job here. It's not my responsibility to speak, and I won't, because time is of the essence. But I do appreciate the people that are here that are putting forth the petition for the restoration of fellow rights. But it's critical, and what I'm going to be asking them, I'm asking you as well, and we'll be going around the state and asking people. We won't have $2 million to put the necessary 663,000 signatures on the ballot. But I'm going to give it a shot, and I believe you can help, and it has to do with raising the minimum wage. Here and other legislators, and they will tell you how difficult it is working with the people that they work with. But what the Florida legislature did is they passed a minimum wage law. But that minimum wage law in increments will still not get to $10 in 3 years. So I'm asking that we at least ask for 12, we should be asking for 15, and guess who got wise the other day? Walmart decided to pay 9. You know what I'm saying? Edna decided that they were going, and if Walmart for all these years they fought minimum wage, then the minimum wage is going to put them out of business, then why did they increase their minimum wage? Oh, I fooled around and I'll start speaking. My dear friend, and in Congress we say that when I speak of Lois and Emanuel, I really do mean it. Emanuel is my best friend in the House of Representatives. He keeps me on the straight and narrow. Already I've cursed, and he doesn't. And he gives me dispensation once in a while when we are on the floor. But this man was the mayor of the largest city in Missouri for 8 years in Kansas City, Missouri. So he didn't come to Congress like Lois. He came with credentials, I'm saying Lois came with credentials, having been the mayor of this city and having had executive responsibilities. So has Emanuel. But carrying on with what transpired, I do like for people to have the context. The argument that I was making in the Rules Committee was not directed at Dr. Burgess, who asked me for an apology. It was directed at the state of Texas and its policy makers. Okay? And the context was Medicaid expansion and their failure to expand Medicaid. And in addition to saying that Texas is crazy, Mark, when you see your colleagues in Florida, you tell them I said they're the second craziest. In Texas, there's only one clinic for women to take care of their needs with reference to choice. One in that whole big old state. They allow people in that state to carry guns into bars. If that ain't crazy, I don't know what is. We're getting ready, and Mark is going to try to defeat, I'm sure, people that want to allow guns in school. If you're teaching school, you want somebody that you got to give a grade to have a gun? I mean, come on, people. Tell me that this state is almost as crazy as Texas. So I said, and Mark said that those same people, they won't allow them to vote early on the campus, but they want them to have a gun. Okay? Now then, as I bring this gentleman up, they put up a hashtag that says, "Don't mess with Texas." That was a hashtag, and they got lots of stuff. I had 6 death threats in the Washington office, 3 in the Florida office, and I started to perpetuate it, but it's people like Emanuel and Lois that keep me tempered, especially at times like that. I was going to carry it on, and I was going to say, I thought everything was big in Texas, until I started working with a bunch of midget-minded congressmen. This man was born and raised and went to school in Texas, and he thinks that I was correct. So I brought Emanuel Cleaver here to make sure you know that I was talking about policymakers in Texas who I think are crazy, and I believe he thinks they are too. Come on up, Emanuel.
Let me thank my parishioner. What you probably, I mean, for those of you who haven't seen it, do not die without having seen this. And by the time I got back to Kansas City, just coming out of the airport, people were asking, "Do you know Alcee Hastings?" And in Washington, people were showing it on the floor, which is against all of the rules. But you know, and the man who foolishly got into a debate with one of the smartest people in the House of Representatives and the Senate. Office is next door to me, and Dr. Burgess. And after this happened, he tried to walk with me over the vote to show people that it wasn't anything racial. I tried to hide from him. It's hard to hide from the person next door. So, but you got to see it, and I'm very serious. I do believe that Alcee is the smartest, if not one of the smartest people. Mayor Frankel, Congressman Frankel, thank you so much. As we are adding people to our delegation in the House, the Democratic delegation, it's good to send real Democrats. I apologize. I had a later flight this afternoon, but in Washington they don't handle snow well, and it's amazing. One of the most amazing things I've ever seen. And I grew up in a moderate climate in Texas, but you can show people a photograph of snow and they'll close the business. It is it's I've never seen anything like it. And I am thrilled that the Democratic Party would pause dedicated to Black history. Please understand that this is unique even inside the Democratic Party. I travel all over. I've never seen a Black history program inside a Democratic county or city party. So this gives me great joy because I like to think that one of the things that separates us, frankly, is the English language.
Tell us more.
And you know, I do think that when you go and stand on the floor in the House of Representatives, just take a panoramic view, and Lois can attest to this, of the side that Democrats sit on. It is the rainbow that God created. Yeah. And that's one of the reasons I'm a Democrat. Now, but you hear, let me just talk to you a little about Black history. There's a scripture. I'm like, this is not a sermon. No, it's not. No. It can be, but it's not. But I think you can better get the context if I just direct you to a seldom remembered scripture. In fact, it's probably one that even many of the preachers have not focused on because of its seemingly insignificant location in the Gospel of John. And it's around the 5th chapter, the 22nd verse. And they quote from my religious tradition, Jesus, who speaks to his disciples and he says to them, you know, if I had not come, you'd have an excuse. But because I came, you have no excuse. And so I've thought about that a lot when I first ran across it years ago. And every now and then, not every day, but every now and then, I allow my mind to float out on the wings of imagination, and even on the pinions of faith. And I raise a point of self-interrogation. What if I had not come? What if Emanuel Cleaver had not come?
Yes.
Well, if I had not come, obviously my wife would not be married.
Many ways to think it.
If I had not come, I think my older sister would have been infinitely happier. We grew up in a religious family. And so my grandfather and Cleaver, there were 27 Cleaver preachers. So I grew up with an older sister who could not go on dates in a car unless I was there. So I know that she would have been happy if I had not come. And then I think about Mr. J.C. Penney, who was a philanthropist. And I can remember my first job where I worked at the SAC base, the Strategic Air Command, at Shepherd Air Force Base, Texas, which is in Wichita Falls. My uncle, Leroy Cleaver, was, as Leo, a Tuskegee pilot. The photograph we have is him crashing a plane during training. But I worked out there, and it was a big-time job. I'm like in the, going into my 11th grade year, and I'm cleaning up the sack base. And the sack base, the pilots come on for 3 days. This is the Cold War, 3 days, and then they leave and fresh 3 would come in, 24 hours, and they take off every day, presumably for the Soviet Union then. And so I was cleaning it up. That was my job. I was important. I had to get a security clearance. I was a significant person. And then one Saturday night, as I was getting ready to go to Billy Bash's party, you don't know Billy, but Billy gave very good parties. So I'm getting dressed. I had put on my stiffly starched khaki pants, my red bandolin shirt, and red bandolin socks to match. I had put some JDs strategically behind my ears, and I was ready to go with the telephone running. And I heard my dad taking the call, and I heard him say, "He'll be right there." So I walked out, and my father said, "That was Mr. Barnes, the person who was cleaning up J.C. Penney's, didn't show, so he'd like you to go over." Well, there was no such thing as I'm going to a party, and there's work. So I went back to my room, took off my stiffly starched khaki pants, my bandolin shirt, and my bandolin socks to match, and I wiped behind my ears, and then went down to J.C. Penney's, and I'm in there angry, cleaning up. And as I'm cleaning up, Satan walks in the front door. And he says, "Cleaver, everybody you know is not only at the party, but they're dancing with your girlfriend." And he said, "This is not right." And he said, "If I were you, I would do something." So for the next 3.5 hours, 4 hours, I changed hundreds of price tags on merchandise all over the store. So on Monday morning, when you came to the store, you could buy a pound of gold earrings for 98 cents. J.C. Penney washer and dryer, $1.98 a buy one, women's underwear, $339 installed. So, and I know that Mr. J.C. Penney would have been happier if I had not come. Whenever exploring this what-if line of contemplation, rises for me. What if black people had not come to America? Now, this is a question that has been raised over and over again. Some have asked the question with a raw resentment. Others have asked the same question as if a wrong answer might trigger a national Armageddon. Some have raised the question and reveled in the glory of the answer. What if black people had not come to this land? What if the Royal Jamestown, Virginia harbor had not been visited in August of 1619 by the Dutch ship Man of War? They were out of rations and had no way of surviving. But when the fog lifted from the harbor, 50 townsmen stood on the banks. And as they sat there, they heard the uncoiling of the anchor. It sounded like something out of the macabre. And they jumped in a little boat and made their way to shore. They made a deal with the townsmen. They purchased the human cargo that was in the hull of the ship. 100 black men connected with ankle chains. They were sold for $100 a piece. And when those black feet touched the sands of Jamestown, America began its most embarrassing and its most immoral chapter. Even the most enchanting moments of American history are tainted by what happened in Jamestown. Our history is besmirched by this thorny issue of slavery and then racial enmity. In 1789, a bright spot in our history, George Washington was sworn in as the first president of the United States. That same George Washington, at the age of 10, inherited 11 slaves because of a death in his family. 11 at age 10. By the time he became president, he had 150. George Washington was a major figure in our history and did great things for us. But even Abraham Lincoln, considered to be the great emancipator, has a history that creates the image that he was schizophrenic on the issue at best.
Yes, yes.
Make no mistake, this has done damage to who we are.
Teach, brother.
If we had not come to America, there would be no musical nobility.
Amen.
There would be no count, no duke, no prince, and no king or queen of soul. If we had not come to America. We had not come to America Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin would have done the first moonwalk. We had not come to America. Hip-hop would be something that orthopedic surgeons did to folk. Come on now. We had not come to America. Who would have taken the first bullet in March of 1770 when Crispus Attucks, a Canadian-born but U.S. slave, was shot as the first person to die in the Revolutionary War for the freedom of the colonists that he could not experience. We had not come to America. Many of you would go home today and you wouldn't be able to just sit yourself down on the sofa. Joseph N. Jackson invented the programmable remote control. You had not come to this place today. You probably could have avoided the fact that a black man stopped you on the way. It was Garrett Morgan who invented the stoplights.
That's right.
The black man. We had not come to America. familiar with the concept of a blood bank, designed for the long preservation of blood plasma. It was an idea that served as the model for the Red Cross.
All right.
His name was Charles Drew, Dr. Charles Drew. We had not come to America. Richard Nixon might have gotten away with the break-in in 1972 of the Democratic headquarters at the Republican office complex. It was a black man, Frank Ellis, who discovered the break-in. Y'all not walking with me? What about the Tuskegee Airmen and the Red Tail? They never lost a bomber to enemy action of airplanes when they were flying missions. Not one. They make this all-black unit the best escort operation ever to exist on planet Earth. We have not come to America. What if we had not come? I think it is important for us to understand that we did come. And we brought something with us.
Yes.
And the reality is that if we had not come to America, America wouldn't be the America that we know it today. America would be looking for somebody to dunk. We have not come to America. Little white boys in the suburbs will be wearing their hats correctly. But we came. And we connected ourselves to the Republican Party.
Yes, we did.
Primarily because of what was believed to have been the great emancipators' work.
That's right. That's right.
I mean, almost every black person in this country was a Republican until FDR.
That's right.
We became Democrats with FDR. Became involved in the Democratic Party. Now we had to fight a little inside the party early on, and still have to do it. But the good news is that we are in, and we are significant players. And you just look around at this crowd and the people who are already in elective office or running for elective office in the Democratic Party. You will not see this in another party. And what we need to understand is we ought to be proud, not apologetic, we ought to be proud of the fact that we have a party that goes the entire rainbow of what God intended the world to be. We ought to be proud of that ought to entice us to unity. I grew up, my grandfather was white, so we had a weird situation. And so I have my father, who's as white as anybody, and he's got freckles. Most of the, I don't have to play, but people have freckles. I have 3 sisters, all of them have freckles. I have one. not really a part of the family. You were adopted. You're not with us, and we don't really think that they're going to keep you very long. I went through that. But that was before I developed, a vocabulary and started thinking creatively. And so I finally told them after they attacked me one Saturday morning, I said, let me tell you, I used to have freckles. I used to have freckles. The difference is my freckles got together. My freckles unified. And as a result, I'm always getting that one little problem. But that's what I think we need to understand, that this is a party of freckles. But if our party can organize and then come to the point of unity, there is no one that can stop us. There is no one that can defeat us. Now, I need to quit and go sit down. Let me just share a couple of things with you, and I'm going to sit down. One of the things that I hope everybody can keep in mind is that we have a situation now that I think is unparalleled, at least in modern U.S. history. Some liken this to Reconstruction, the second Reconstruction, when a man can walk around and become a national hero by saying that the president doesn't love America. It tells you that there's something wrong. There's something that has an odor in this country that still remains after all these years. No president has ever been questioned about his birth, But I want you to know a couple of things. One, these are some tough times. It's going to be tough to get everybody elected. But you can't, let me tell you, I grew up really poor. I didn't live in a house with indoor plumbing or electricity until I was 8. My mother, my father, 3 sisters. We struggled. Just outside of downtown Dallas. And then my father moved us into public housing. He worked 3 jobs. Sent my mother to college when I was in the 8th grade. All 3 of my sisters have college degrees, one of them PhD. People from time to time will need a little help. And one of the things we ought to brag about is that our country will give you a helping hand. And what's wrong with that? That's patriotic. What is that bad theology?
No. That's Christian theology.
And there are people trying to pervert something that we ought to be celebrating. My daddy bought his house. Well, he bought a lot, $2,000, in the black neighborhood. Bought a house in the white neighborhood. We couldn't live there, so he had to move. My daddy lives in it at this moment, right now. And every year, he is among the 10 lands to see. Now they have a drought. You may have been reading about it in Texas, and so you're not supposed to water your lawn but once a week on Fridays. My daddy said they can't catch me. And my daddy's yard is as green as this thing. And he said, they came out of the night at 2. They thought they could catch me. And he said, I saw them coming. So if you read that my father's been arrested, but the pride my daddy has, sending 4 kids through college and his wife. He worked 3 jobs. And at one point, the government gave him a hand when we lived in public housing. And he wouldn't let us take, take commodities. You could go down and get commodities if you were poor. We couldn't do that. We'd get in trouble. It's a problem. And in spite of that, it's going to be difficult for us to do all the things we need to do. In that house, we had good dishes. Now, most of you, I can look at you, most of you are wealthy people, but don't try to hide it. Catherine, she's going to be rich. She's going to be rich in the corner over here. Be the first rich Democrat. But we were poor, so we had good dishes. And we ate out of the good dishes only. Come on now. That's right. Now, regular people, we would drink out of the jelly glasses. Because they, have little figures on the jelly glasses, and you finish with the jelly, and it becomes a part of every day. Well, so my 3 sisters and I, we rotated. My older sister did the dishes, and I did, and my next sister, and my baby sister. And so I never will forget the Thanksgiving when it rolled around on me. So, I'm mad because we got, my grandmother's there, uncle, and my mother's cousin, so I got all these dishes to wash. So it's like the tablecloth. What I did, everybody's in there having fun, so I got the tablecloth and I just kind of rolled up everything on the table. It wasn't my fault. It's not like I was trying to avoid washing them. It wasn't my fault, and anybody could have dropped it. So my mother, everybody hears when my mother comes in, she says, "You get back in your room. I don't want you ever touching my good dishes." And I said to myself, that's my first political victory. But about 2 days later, she came back and undid that decision. She reversed it. And she said, "Son, why did you do that?" And I said, I picked it up. I didn't know it was going to be heavy. And she said, "Son, just because something is heavy, there's no reason to drop it. You got a heavy job. There's no reason to drop it." Let me again, I tell you, during this healthcare debate, we had some mess going on in Washington. We had Tea Party people all over everywhere, and they were screaming at us. And I'll never forget this guy on the steps of the county says to me, "We want our country back." And first, got people both sides screaming, "We want our country back." So I turned and said, "Well, you can't have it."
You with our golden donkey. It says Palm Beach. Wear it proudly. Let them know you were here, and we appreciate the fact that you did come. Thank you.